Alright, so I wanted to show you something quick from Chapter 4. This is a line drawing program, which is exercise 4.1 of the bonus content. Your lab is going to be to do 4.2, so this might be useful for you. You were asked to draw some lines fanning out from the upper left corner of the screen, and you can draw them in 15 sized increments, where basically you've got a step height starting here, starting at 0, 0, and drawing it out a certain distance, and then the next one at 15, and then 30, and then 45, and so on and so forth. So that's how that's done. It's pretty simple. It's just basically telling it to draw out at maybe, you could see, so basically 15 here, down in the Y, and height minus 15 over in the X, and then 30 and 30, and minus, or height minus 30 kind of thing, and then so on and so forth until it fans out, starting at 0, 0 each time. So that's how that works, and then lines test, of course, is just the one that runs it. Nothing too crazy there. As I said, your lab will be to do 4.2 in your book, which actually I can show you that. Oh, apparently I closed that already. Oh well. Anyway, we will move on here to chapter 6 in a second. So this is 6.13. This talks about colors and filled shapes. So we can display colors on the screen by RGB values, which is basically 0 through 25 for the R, which is red, G is green, B is blue. And the higher the value of that component color, the richer the shade will be. We use the class color to do some predefines for black, blue, cyan, dark gray, gray. Those are all the various predefines that are accepted. There's also a color constructor that you can use. Finally, you can use fill rect, fill oval, and set color to specify these. So this is what we see: draw smiley, extending J panel. So we can do a set color to yellow, and then fill the oval with the 10, 10, 200, 200, the origin of the oval and the size of the oval. And then drawing the eyes, we can set it as a 55, 65 position and 135, 65 position with sizes 30 and 30. Then the mouth is an oval as well. And finally, some little rectangles on the mouth to draw it into a smiley face. And we end up with this. So that's the J-frame for displaying a smiley face. Not too complicated here. We've got a fill rect, we've got a fill oval, and then that gives us ultimately our smiley face. There's some other easy shapes to display, and some of the bonus questions in this chapter ask you to work with these, but as I said, your lab is going to be 4.2 on in the Dital book, which actually I'll give you in a second. That is 4.2, page 137. So I want you to display 2 additional designs. Basically, it's going to look like design in 4.21, which looks like this. So you're going to end up drawing a shape quite similar to this one right here. You can pause that if you want to read the assignment and go on from there. We will be talking about chapter 7 shortly here, in moments. For chapter 7, there's a case study of drawing arcs. It's kind of like drawing ovals. It's simply a section of an oval, actually, and you use the graphics method fill arc. It takes 6 parameters. First 4 are the bounding rectangle in which the arc is drawn. 5th parameter is the starting angle of the oval. and the 6 is the sweep, or the amount of the arc to cover. So for example, if I was to draw a rainbow, that would look like that. Well, I would start with creating a new Draw Rainbow panel, which inherits from panel. And that is going to define some finals for violet, indigo. We've got our set of color. And then we're basically going to just say paint component, call the super on that, draw the rainbow near the bottom center, and then fill the arc at each section. So start out at colors.length and move down. We set the color for the current arc, and then we fill it from 0 to 180 degrees. So we start out at the center minus the counter times the radius. So we go up 1 each time. And we can end up with the rainbow. So that's pretty much how that's done. The putziest thing to get right here is the arc parameters. So center x minus counter times radius. So note that counter starts off at the colors.length, which is going to start out as 8 times the radius. So that's 160. So center x minus 160. Center y minus 160. These are going to form the bounds of that box that we mentioned. And then counter times radius times 2. Counter times radius times 2 again, and then 0 and 80. So it goes from 0 to 180 degrees of that arc. And then likewise we subtract now again from, that would be 7 times the radius, so that's minus 140. Minus 40. And then 140 times 2, so to 280. So it goes from 140 to 280 minus whatever the center is. So Chapter 8 talks about using objects within graphics. The idea is basically we're going to make our own shapes that basically draw themselves using a graphics object. So for example, my line will be the first one that we do, when it iterates through an array of my lines and draws each one. So it's kind of like compartmentalizing the graphics drawing of these things. So basically it will have an x coordinate of the first endpoint, and the second endpoint will be x2, y2. And then my line is basically going to draw these lines. So it's the start of the line and end of the line that's going to draw with a given color. It's kind of like wrapping this into an object, which is a drawable object. In this case it's called my line. Then you can call draw on it. Inside your draw panel for panel, when you call draw, you can say lines equals new my line with a certain size. And you can generate random coordinates for these then and populate them so that you have an array of lines drawn on the screen. Notice we're getting random coordinates here. x1, y1 equals next int 300, so it'll be anything from 0 through 299. Same thing with color. We're getting random RGB values. And then we're adding it to the list of lines to be displayed. So we can compartmentalize the drawing of these lines in that case. We can do the same thing to shapes. And I've got an example project where I show this. I've got a my line, a my oval, a my rectangle. So my rectangle might be a good place to start from here. We've got the x1 and the y1, and the x2 and the y2, and then a color. Just like an oval, for the private, we have the endpoint, the first endpoint and the second endpoint, and whether it's filled or not. Notice I've got a bunch of getter and setter methods here. And I just call draw on it. So my test draw function, or test draw class rather, I'm just adding this new draw panel. Draw panel has a paint component in it that just draws a bunch of lines basically. Line.draw oval.draw for all the ovals in there, and then rectangle.draw. If I run this, I see a bunch of stuff drawn on the screen. And here's more. Some random rectangles drawn, some random ovals drawn, some random lines drawn. So again, draw panel is the method that's used to create all of these custom objects. And it's an array of lines, an array of ovals, and an array of rectangles. And that's populating these things, creating a new object for each one of the lines, and a new object for each one of the ovals, and a new object for each one of the rectangles. Then finally it's painting them. Paint component is the thing that actually draws it, and then we run test draw, and that's how we end up with our shapes that are printed in various places. Alright, so again, section 4.2 is the lab materials. There'll be a quiz on this material up sometime soon, and for now you should be good. We ended up getting done in a little bit less than half an hour. This probably would have taken longer in person, but I was able to make this a little more efficient in video format. So we will see you in class on Wednesday.